Hi, and welcome to the Total Recall Show. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics, and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Matt Zeoli.
And today we're talking about Moonage Daydream.
Wow, the new Bowie doc.
The new Bowie doc, and we're just sort of celebrating Bowie in general. So we thought, it's a Bowie show, let's kick it off with some songs. So, you know what time it was, the lights were low, ho, ho, la, 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 la. Oh, apologies to Duncan.
Sorry, Duncan.
Duncan, hope you enjoyed that tribute to your dad. Elvis is the king. What's David Bowie? Is there like a word?
Isn't he like the thin white duke?
Ziggy Stardust. He's
I like how
Halloween Jack. Yeah. Jack the Pumpkin King.
Like, what's this? What's this?
Pushing through the market square, so many mothers sighing. The wall to wall is calling. You linger and you forget. We passed upon the stair. We spoke of was and when. Ashes to ashes, fun to fun. We know Major Tom's a junkie. You will be queen, though nothing will drive them away.
It's a true confession. I wasn't channeling Bowie. It was Jacob Dylan from the Godzilla soundtrack.
You know what? Our Bowie cover band is Ziggy and the Stardust.
Oh.
Heaven loves ya. The clouds part for ya. Nothing stands in your way when you're a boy. Life is a pop of the cherry when you're a boy.
That Boy song. There's riffs in there that I'm like pretty sure that the Killers used on the album Hot Fuss.
There's some great bass on that song, and like that era that David Bowie was working at, it was Lodger. I think it was like the third album that he did in Berlin, and it kind of like the first couple are like sort of like experimental, and then by the third he's like taking all that cool stuff and then employing it in like really cool pop.
It's awesome.
That kind of like bass line. David Bowie and Mark Bolan were trying to put together like a collaborative project. It was going to be kind of like a comeback for Mark Bolan from T-Rex, kind of like a little bit of a comeback. Like he had like a TV show, like an afternoon talk show. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, David Bowie was like his final guest, and it's like the final footage. It's kind of sad. It's great, but it's kind of sad because it's like the last footage of Mark Bolan before he died, and it's like he's on stage with Bowie, and they're doing and they're like jamming. It's got that same. It's like that type of riff where it's like. It's got like a real strut to it and stuff.
Love those
and they're
riffs.
and they're about to start singing. And then Mark Bolan falls off the stage, and then David Bowie starts cracking up, and then that's the end of the episode. So that's like the end of the final episode of Mark Bolan's TV show. And then he died shortly after.
Was he in a car accident?
He was in a car accident. He did not die from falling off the stage.
Playing with David
Bowie. But David Bowie, it's like because David Bowie's like so fucking serious. He's got these like red shades on. He's like, and Mark Bolan's being super serious too. And then he falls off the stage. David Bowie's like so serious, and then he just starts busting out laughing. It's so great.
The camera pans back, and the stage is on top of Big Ben. That's why when he falls off the stage,
it's on the Eiffel Tower.
He just falls off the edge of it.
I was surprised that didn't make it into the movie. Like, so have you seen it?
I haven't seen it yet.
I was looking for the movie, seeing if it's not streaming anywhere, and you had to see it in the theater, trying to see if it was coming to Pittsburgh at all.
Yeah.
And I was driving past the theater, and I saw like the guy was putting up the marquee. He was like up on the ladder.
Talk about perfect timing.
And I saw it, so I'm like, okay, I got to check that out. Otherwise, if I had known in advance, I would have given you a call and we could go screen it together. But I just was like, I went and saw the next show of it.
The guy was putting the stuff on the marquee, but he had a white unitard and like an orange lightning bolt in his face.
Heaven loves you. But yeah, no, that movie. So we took up a bunch of time having a blast celebrating some of the music of David Bowie. Like after you see that show, like it's the documentary Moonage Daydream. It's a little bit controversial. He's like, this isn't like going to see the Queen movie. This isn't like a jukebox or whatever. But man, it was like nonstop,
Oh my
great
God.
songs. I loved it from start to finish. It's not attempting to be like the complete Bowie. It's not like, you know,
A Ken Burns.
Yeah, exactly. Ken Burns, and then like his sister saying, you know, he was a strange child. It wasn't any of that. It was like all these like interviews with him, all these like videos that he did, all this like these art projects, all kind of like molded together into this like big statement. Where and his stated objective, the documentary maker, his stated objective was to like make a movie that's like the embodiment of Bowie. Not a movie about Bowie, but it's like you're in. And so
Wow.
he's talking Bowie's, you're hearing him talk about his philosophy, you're hearing him talk about like his relationship with his mom, this, that. You see him like walking around like lonely through these streets. You see all this, and you
That's
see all the
fascinating.
Ziggy Stardust stuff. There's a lot of like the Ziggy Stardust concerts and stuff.
My mom loved David Bowie,
Did
and
she?
like I have her Ziggy Stardust album.
Okay, wow.
Duh.
Your mom's cool. You know.
Yeah,
There's
like,
that's
yeah,
that's
she-
you know, my parents. You know, I don't think my parents were even on board for Let's Dance. You know.
I still need to listen to Black Star. He's like, that's his final album.
You know what? I should have pulled that up, and maybe I still can. But Black Star was his final album, and there's like a song on there that I love. It's called Valentine's Day. Because like, I mean, I love when David Bowie goes pop. You know, like I loved the Ziggy Stardust stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like that was like, you know, this huge era for him, and then he kind of grew out of it and then moved on to other stuff, you know, more experimental stuff, this and that. But, you know, every so often he'll like come back with something pop, and then you know, Let's Dance was just like the huge pop,
Oh.
like mega 80s pop kind of thing. But Black Star, a bunch of different kinds of songs, but then there's a song on there called Valentine's Day that's like so great, and it's kind of like, I'm gonna write a song about Valentine's
That's
Day. You know?
cool. The Ziggy Stardust ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there'll be like, you know, an interesting riff
Yeah.
or something kind of like off kilter, and then a beautiful chorus like explodes out of it.
Yes.
You weren't expecting.
Yeah. Is it told? He's got something to say. It's Valentine's Day. It's great song. Great song. Like that's my favorite off
On
of his
Black
final
Star.
album, off of Black Star. Yeah.
Passed away like
Yeah, just a
couple
couple years
ago.
ago, yeah.
And his son Duncan.
Zoe Bowie, Zoe Bowie.
That's amazing. I like. What better way to do a tribute to Bowie than jam out his.
Yeah, kind of like this episode, just like how the documentary is like an embodiment of Bowie, this episode of Total Recall is an embodiment of Bowie. We're getting glam this episode. It was an MTV themed birthday party, so it was all this different stuff. But one of the games we played, it was pin the tie on David Bowie. So it was like a poster of David Bowie, and then we had these little construction paper ties, and you'd be
awesome.
blindfolded and try to pin the tie on David Bowie. It was that like the David Bowie I know is like when I was a kid, it was like it was like Ashes to Ashes era, where he'd be on MTV and he'd be doing some like weird video, and then Let's Dance. So that was you know, it was like that was all contemporary. Let's Dance and all that was contemporary when I was a kid, and so that's like, you know, my image of David Bowie, and then of course like Labyrinth.
Oh,
That's like
yeah.
the other, and there was like and this was part of the Moonage Daydream. There was this like, it was either like Pepsi or I think it was Pepsi commercial with him and
I don't
Tina
know.
Turner singing together.
I'm sure I'd
Singing
recognize
Modern
it.
Love.
What's it like living in Pittsburgh, PA?
The armpit of
Or
America.
he's like, what's it like eating a sandwich with French fries?
You know, he talked in the documentary. He's talking about how like he hated America, he hated Los
shit.
Angeles, and so he thought, what if I live in Los Angeles? Like, what would that do to me? How would that? And so he like moves to
Interesting.
Los
Like
Angeles.
an artistic
Yeah,
experiment.
on himself. Yeah,
That's cool as hell.
so like. I wonder if he ever considered Pittsburgh. I hate Pittsburgh. What would happen if I lived in Pittsburgh? How would that
It
change me?
And it shows he's like, his next album, he's like, boom, boom, ba-da-da-da, here we go.
Here we go. Well, I mean
Here we go.
Here we go.
It's Steelers.
Is like it is kind of like a Ziggy Stardust kind of like stomp or like groove or strut or so. It is.
What would happen? What would it be like if I ate an Eaton Park Okay. Pardon me while I put my parking chair out there.
I'll put on my Heinz Ward
Jersey. If you excuse me, he's debating. He's like, Heinz Ward definitely should get into the Hall of Fame, though some may regard him as a merely possession receiver.
You got crazy legs, you got amazing head, you got rings in your fingers and you... But velvet gold mine, you struck me like the rain. My velvet gold mine. Stone love, she kneels before the grave. Her brave son, who gave his life to see the slogan. That was a good pick, man. That was a good one. That was.
That's one of my favorite Bowie songs.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's obscure, which is a must for a Bowie song. You don't want your favorite song, a David Bowie song, to be Let's Dance or Modern Love. You want it to be something a deeper cut.
From Ziggy Stardust.
Ziggy Stardust is
wall to wall.
Yeah, it's David Bowie's Sgt. Pepper or something.
It's so good, and the guitarist, I think his name is Mick Ronson.
Mick Ronson, he's great.
Underrated.
Yeah, and he's great in his own right, and he has a couple solo albums that are dynamite.
I'm gonna listen to them.
Yeah, he does a great rendition of Love Me Tender.
Wow.
Just so you can hear the difference between his Love Me Tender and Elvis's Love Me Tender. It's like, turn this down low. It's like, love me tender, love me sweet. Never let me go. Dreams fulfilled, and I always will. It's like this glam version of Love Me Tender.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, it's good.
I can't wait. Mick Ronson's solo album.
Yeah, he has 2 solo albums. I can't even do the Elvis Love Me Tender because the Mick Ronson Love Me Tender's not as polished. But dynamic, diamond in the rough, pure talent. It's been a magical episode, and I'm so happy about it.
To celebrate, I'm like the Duke.
The Duke.
Fucking John Wayne.
We're here to celebrate the Earl of Funk, the Duke of Cool, the Ayatollah of Rock and Roll. You've been watching the Moonage Daydream David Bowie tribute episode of Total Recall. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics and Fantastic Four Grand Design.
I'm Zeoli.
And we'll see you next time.